Thank you again for the invitation. Unfortunately, I have to go in English. My French is not that good anymore, but I hope you all of it understand. I wrote this essay for this publication, which came out this summer. Hopefully you've seen it. It's been published by the University of Geneva, and it was about the construction of the hero myth of Dufour in Switzerland. So I did a small chapter, an essay in that book. And this presentation will talk about this. Okay. He didn't wander into the desert by accident and emerge out of it as a hero. He wandered into the desert deliberately. So the historian Michael Korda, not about Dufour, but this man, Thomas Edward Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia. The British classical hero of the 19th century or early 20th century stands in strong contrast to the classical Swiss hero of the 19th century, Henri Guillaume Dufour, who has been titled a hero against his own will. In my paper, I took the hero status of Dufour as set as a priori. From a cartographic perspective, Dufour founded the Bureau Topographique, today Swiss Topo, and was responsible for the first official map of the Swiss state, the Topographic Map of Switzerland, better known as Dufourmap. But what made the hero in the 19th century? Was Dufour's hero status a result of his own military campaigns? And what did his cartographic achievements contribute? In my essay, I attempted to answer this question through an analysis of the use and spread of the name Dufourmap for the Topographic Map of Switzerland. In my presentation, I will first shortly identify how historians have defined heroic attributes for the 19th century and see how Dufour fit into this. In the second section, I will focus on the heroization of Dufour in the liberal media and the spread of the name Dufourmap. And in the third part, I will talk about the role of cartography and Dufour's status as a hero in the 20th century. So what made a hero in the 19th century? According to Michael Korda, heroic attributes consisted of intentional, brave deeds, often in times of war. Historian John Mack also identified individual bravery and a sense for initiative as common attributes of 19th century heroes. Looking at his career, it is mainly the military success that matched the criteria for this heroization. That would make Dufour, like Lawrence, a military hero. This again leads to the question, what role played Dufour's cartographic achievements? In contrast to his predecessors, and what came later to be known as the Federal Office of Topography, Dufour was in line with the liberal project of creating a map for a future federal state. The first two sheets of the topographic map from 1845 showed Geneva and Watt on sheet 16, and on sheet 17 we have several cantons. We have parts of Fribourg, Wallis, Watt, and the Berner Oberland, of course. And as you noticed, the borders of the still at this time very sovereign cantons dropped in the background, and the borders against France were highlighted, and the Swiss land was unified by a three-dimensional mountainous landscape. In some sense, Dufour was the first to show a state that did not exist at the time, and in this way showed great amount of initiative, also a heroic attribute in the 19th century. Heroization, so Mack, was dependent on a series of tangled networks. Part of this network was the person that was made the hero, people that identified with the hero, society as a whole, that set the standards for heroization, and the journalists and historians that will write the hero narrative. The historians David Gugeli and Daniel Speich wrote that Dufour was glorified in the liberal press. To see how Dufour was portrayed in the 19th century and what role cartography played, I looked at the, at that time, leading liberal newspaper in the Swiss-German part, the Neue Zürcher Zeitung. The articles of the paper show already before the Sonderbund War, sympathy for Dufour is primarily of political nature. The sympathy turned enthusiastic with Dufour's success in the Civil War. The paper wrote of the noble general and savior of liberty. This influenced the media coverage of the topographic map in the 1850s and 60s. The work on the map was consistently mentioned in connection with the name Dufour. It became a standard phrase that the map existed thanks to and due to the achievement of the general. While in the 1850s and 60s, strong connection between the map and the name Dufour appeared, the newspaper idealized and heroized Dufour, who was then portrayed as a follower of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose soul and heart mirrored the nature around Lake Geneva, a patriot but also very liberal hero. So when did the topographic map become known as Dufourmap? A first shift becomes apparent in the 1850s, when work on the map was consistently mentioned in connection to the name Dufour. Often the map was referred to as Dufour's map. In the 1860s, the term Dufour'sche Karte and Dufour's Swiss map become common terms. At the time of Dufour's heroization in the paper in the 1870s, the map was already referred to as Dufourmap. This caused also some confusion, as advertisements in the book trade suddenly used the names Dufourmap, Dufour Atlas, Big Dufourmap, and Small Dufourmap. Some meant the topographic map bound as a book, some single sheets, some the topographic atlas, others the general map in 250,000. A small example of how actually the Office of Topography itself then used the title Dufour Karte on a bound edition. While the name Dufourmap developed a self-dynamic at the same time as Dufour was increasingly made a hero in the liberal media, there's no direct proof or direct link between the creation of the name and the hero status. Of course, did the heroization spread the name, but also did the name feed the heroization. The general fame of Dufour and also the great contribution of Dufour to the map project are most likely to be at the root of the name. Also, the name was easier to remember and set it apart from other topographic maps that were in circulation on Switzerland. But how did the heroization of the 19th century correspond with Dufour's image in the 20th century? Newspaper articles about the celebrations to what would have marked Dufour's 200th birthday in 1987 give an idea of how Dufour was portrayed in the 20th century. While Dufour remained immensely unpopular in some parts of the country in the 19th century, especially central Switzerland, he was now widely respected. The liberator was turned into peacemaker and was compared to even to the Saint Nicholas von Flüe. Coverage of Dufour's military role was now only part of a wider coverage that was split between cartography, Dufour the engineer, humanitarian, and peacemaker. The coverage showed Dufour as a neutral scientist. Also, the initial political implications of the map and the map project were blended out. Dufour was in line with what Mack defines as a moral hero for the 20th century. I believe it can be argued that Dufour's cartographic achievement and the name Dufourmap highly contributed to that Dufour remained also present in the 20th century. Conclusive military success played, as with Lorenz, a major role in the heroization of Dufour in the liberal press. The focus on the person Dufour in the media coverage of the topographic map led to the name Dufourmap. This was not necessarily caused by the heroization of Dufour, but the spread of the name and an interaction with Dufour's heroic status. The name Dufourmap and the new focus on Dufour's cartographic achievement carried Dufour's status as a hero also into the 20th century. While Lorentz's characteristics became an important part of his heroization, Dufour in some way was then also neutralized, unlike the topographic map, depoliticized, internally became a hero for entire Switzerland. If you want to reach us, if you have further questions about the map collection, I'm responsible for the historic map collection at Swiss Topo. You can reach us anytime at this email. And then also, we published 5-6 years ago for 175 years Dufourmap. We published this book. If you don't have it, I have only 5 copies here. Feel free to take one. And yeah, that was it.
Herzlichen Dank, Dr. Frei.
Voici le portrait de la Suisse, le portrait qu'a voulu le général Guillaume-Henri Dufour, la carte de la Suisse au 100 millième. Ce n'est plus 22 portraits différents, c'est un seul portrait, celui qu'a souhaité, a voulu, a décidé Guillaume-Henri Dufour. Allons voir maintenant sur le terrain comment il a procédé. C'est avec des instruments comme ceux-là que Dufour et ses collaborateurs vont dresser la fameuse carte du nouvel État fédératif.
Il a commencé ses travaux en 1838, au moment où la Diète lui a octroyé un crédit qui lui a permis d'ouvrir un bureau topographique à Genève. Et les premières cartes sont sorties en 1845, les dernières en 1864.
Ça tombait bien avec la campagne du Sonderbund, parce que c'est aussi militaire le but qu'il poursuit. Hein.
La carte était faite à la demande de l'état-major qui s'était rendu compte déjà au début du XIXe siècle des faiblesses des cartes existantes et qui souhaitait avoir une carte plus précise, plus exacte. Le grand mérite de Dufour, c'est d'avoir pu imposer l'éclairage oblique qui donne plus de relief aux formes du terrain par rapport à l'éclairage zénital que l'on connaissait avant.
Ils se font les artisans d'un autre temps. Dans les sous-sols de Suisse Topo, à Berne, 2 imprimeurs rééditent ces jours un nouvel original de la carte Dufour. Ils manipulent avec soin la 7e des 25 plaques nécessaires pour finaliser cette carte au 100 000, des plaques de cuivre gravées en négatif il y a 150 ans.
On doit appliquer l'encre de façon très appuyée pour s'assurer qu'elle pénètre bien dans le cuivre et s'assurer une belle impression.
Retour en 1832. En chef d'orchestre, le général Dufour se verra confier les commandes de ce projet d'envergure nationale. Il va se servir de la méthode dite de triangulation pour établir une base géométrique fiable. Sur le terrain, de nombreuses équipes effectueront un important travail de relevé, une quête d'information non sans péril et très minutieuse.
Chef-d'œuvre de précision scientifique, chef-d'œuvre de beauté graphique avec ses reliefs admirables, rendus avec un ingénieux système d'éclairage et de hachure, la carte Dufour est aujourd'hui encore un document de première importance.
Mais au-delà de sa précision scientifique et esthétique, c'est surtout la valeur symbolique de la carte Dufour qui fait aujourd'hui référence.
Cette carte Dufour, elle était la première carte officielle qui couvrait toute la Suisse. Donc, l'important, c'est qu'elle a été débutée déjà 10 ans, une quinzaine d'années avant 1848. On l'a toujours interprétée comme symbole de la nation qui était en cours de se créer.
Primée à l'exposition universelle de Paris en 1855, l'œuvre du Dufour sera le point de départ d'une longue tradition helvétique. Sans comparaison avec la précision des cartes actuelles, celle-ci reste pourtant magique à imprimer. La version qui sort de presse sera exposée par le Musée national de Zurich. Seul le Palais fédéral avait jusque-là fait rééditer cette carte.
Elles dorment ici depuis plus de 20 000 ans. Les pierres du Niton, 2 sœurs de granit, nées en France, dans le massif du Mont Blanc. Durant le dernier âge glaciaire, elles entreprennent un périple, un voyage à dos de glacier jusqu'à se retrouver ici, dans la rade de Genève.
Encore au XIXe siècle, eh bien, la rade et la rive gauche de Genève étaient envahies de rochers que les glaciers avaient amenés. Il y en avait énormément dans tout le bassin genevois, mais beaucoup ont disparu. C'était une belle aubaine que d'avoir une roche dure telle que le granit à portée de main.
Dans la rade, 24 pierres n'ont pas servi comme matériau de construction. Parmi elles, 2 dépassent de l'eau, mais seule celle-ci deviendra célèbre. Début du 19e siècle, les cantons de Genève et Vaud se disputent à propos du niveau du lac. Un certain Guillaume-Henri Dufour, ingénieur cantonal à Genève, décide de lire le niveau du lac sur cette barre, fixée sur la pierre du Niton. 70 ans plus tard, elle devient la référence de la cartographie suisse, RPN, repère pierre du Niton.
Dans ce recueil, le repère pierre du Niton a l'altitude 0 et toutes les autres altitudes sont données par rapport à ce point 0 à Genève. Plus tard, quelqu'un a ajouté ici à la main 376,862, l'altitude de la pierre du Niton par rapport à la mer, calculée grâce aux mesures d'ingénieurs français du temps de Napoléon.
Étonnant. En 1891, la Suisse base sa cartographie sur l'altitude d'un bloc erratique qui a parcouru plus de 100 km et que le glacier du Rhône a déposé sur une couche de sédiments.
C'est sûrement en hommage au général Dufour qui a utilisé cette pierre déjà en 1820. L'autre explication, c'est le point suisse le plus proche de la mer Méditerranée. Et les ingénieurs français avaient déjà mesuré l'altitude de Genève en 1860 à partir de la Méditerranée.
L'altitude de la pierre du Niton a beaucoup changé, mais depuis 1902, elle est gravée dans cette ordonnance.
Le point d'origine de la mesure des altitudes est le repère pierre du Niton, situé en rade de Genève. Son altitude est fixée à 373,60 mètres.
Depuis plus de 100 ans, son altitude n'a pas bougé, même si avec les technologies modernes, on pourrait obtenir une plus grande précision.
Personne n'a envie, juste pour une histoire de quelques centimètres, de devoir modifier toutes les altitudes de Suisse.
Même au pays de la précision, les cartes sont inexactes. La réalité se cache quelque part entre les systèmes de chaque pays européen. Aujourd'hui, pour les Suisses, la pierre du Niton est 30 cm plus basse que pour les Français, mais 20 cm plus haute que pour les Allemands.